name of the chapter is Plant Kingdom. In the previous chapter, we have looked at the broad classification of living organisms under the system proposed by Whitaker, wherein it was suggested that it is a 5-kingdom classification consisting of the kingdom Monera, Protista, Fungi, Animalia and Plantae. But in this chapter, we will talk about the kingdom Plantae only, which is popularly called as the plant kingdom. As this is a new system of classification under which the earlier the fungi, Protista, Monera, they were very crudely classified either under the plant kingdom, either under the animal kingdom. But nowadays, the plant kingdom is considered as in a very scientific way, and how the classification is done, let's have a little talk about that. So far as the plant system kingdom is concerned, first of all, the earliest system of classification used only gross superficial morphological characters and such as the habit, color, number and shape of the leaves. They were mainly based on the vegetative characters or on the endometrium structure, and this system was called as the artificial system of classification, which was proposed by Linnaeus. Carolus Linnaeus proposed this system. This system was artificial. They separated the closely related species since they were based on the few characteristics. Also, this artificial system of classification gave equal weightage to both vegetative as well as sexual characteristics. This is not acceptable since we know that often the vegetative characters are more easily affected by the environment. And now another system was proposed, and this was called as the natural system of classification, which was based on the natural affinities among the organisms and consider the main characteristics on the scientific basis. And these characteristics not only included the external characters but also the internal characters like microscopic ultrastructures, anatomy, embryology, phytochemistry. Such a classification was proposed by Bentham and Hooker, and hence this is also called as the Bentham and Hooker's classification system. We now use the information from many other sources too to help to resolve the difficulties in classification. These become more important because there are some plants are generally the soft parts, and sometimes the fossil records are not available. What we now use as our help first is called as the numerical taxonomy. What is this numerical taxonomy? It is because of the technologies available in the present time that we are rely on the numerical technology, which is now easily carried out using computers, is based on all observable characters. Number and codes are assigned to the characters and the data is then processed. In this way, each character is given equal importance, and at the same time, hundreds of characteristics can be considered. Another base of the classification is the cytotaxonomy. Cytotaxonomy, this is based on the cytological information like chromosome number, structure and behavior. And the last is the chemotaxonomy. Chemotaxonomy uses the chemical constituents of the plants to resolve confusions and is also used by taxonomists these days. Now, I have discussed with you the system of classification which now we take into consideration, which is quite advanced. And on this very system of on the basis of this very system of classification, we have classified the plant kingdom something like this. As you can see on the screen, that the kingdom plantae, or the plant kingdom, is broadly classified into two groups, the cryptogamy and the phanerogamy. And further, the cryptogamy, they have been divided into three groups, the thallophyta, bryophyta, and pteridophyta, and phanerogams into gymnosperms and the angiosperms. Now you see here in this classification I have written thallophyta is further divided into algae, fungi and lichens. But in the plant kingdom, these algae and the fungi, they have been excluded because of the reason that they do not belong to the plant kingdom, and now under the thallophyta. By the term thallophyta, we mean the plant body which is not distinguishable into root, stem and leaves. Because the body of the fungi and lichens is also the thallophytes, they were earlier included under the plant kingdom, but now the thallophyta consist of the algae and few bryophytes. Then there are the pteridophytes. Among the phanerogams, we have the gymnosperms, angiosperms, and angiosperms. They are further divided into monocots and dicots. We shall be talking in this chapter about algae, bryophytes, pteridophytes, gymnosperms, and angiosperms one by one. Today I start with the group algae. Algae are the chlorophyll-bearing simple, thalloid, autotrophic and largely aquatic, which could be both freshwater as well as marine water organism. So there are, as you can see on the picture, various forms, various body forms and various habits of the algae are shown here. Now let us discuss about some basic characteristics of the group algae. First of all, the group algae, it consists of the eukaryotes, that is all those algae-like organisms which are prokaryotic have been shifted to the group Monera. And algae, it is unicellular, but some are multicellular. A large number of algal groups are multicellular, some are unicellular. And here I must mention that they occur sometimes as the filamentous organisms and sometimes as the colonial organisms when they are called as the synobium, that we will be discussing right now after this. They are autotrophic in nature and they produce oxygen that is returned to the atmosphere. Now let's talk about the size. They range in size from microscopic to hundreds of feet in length. That is quite a variation, quite a diversity so far as size is concerned. As I told you earlier that they are the thallophytes, they do not have true roots, stem or the leaves. They form the gametes, which are female and the male respectively, called as the egg and the sperms. They show various methods of reproduction. They reproduce by vegetative, sexual and asexual methods. Vegetative reproduction occurs by fragmentation. Each fragment develops into a thallus. Asexual reproduction is by the production of different types of spores. The most common spore is called as the zoospore. They are flagellated and on germination give rise to new plants. Talking about its sexual reproduction takes place through the fusion of gametes. These gametes can be flagellated and similar in length as in Chlamydomonas, and non-flagellated and non-motile but similar in size as in Spirogyra. Such reproduction where the two gametes are similar, that is called as isogamous. Fusion of gametes dissimilar in size as in some species of Chlamydomonas is called as and isogamous. Fusion between one large and non-motile static and female gamete and a smaller motile male gamete is termed as oogamous, where the examples are volvox and fucus, etc. Now you can see here, as I talk to you, here is the chlamydomonas, which consists of two equal flagella. Then there is unicellular algae, the chlorella, which do not have flagella at all. Then pentorrhina, which is a synovial type of organisms, which is motile synovium. Then there is Senidesmus, Hydrodictyon, Cosmarium, Clostridium, Pinularia, Lycophora, then Botridium and Voceria and several others. There are a few algal body forms which are shown here. Then I will talk about the group of the algae which are we generally study when we talk about the algae, and broadly on the basis of the various pigments, because algae is a group of the plants which shows diversity in terms of its pigments also, and on the basis of different pigments algae is divided into three groups. Chlorophyceae are the green algae, Phaeophyceae are the brown algae, Rhodophyceae are the red algae. We will talk about one by one about these three groups. Let's first talk about Chlorophyceae. Chlorophyceae, the members of Chlorophyceae are commonly called as the green algae. The plant body may be unicellular, colonial or filamentous. They are usually grass green due to the dominance of the pigment chlorophyll A and B. The pigments are localized in definite chloroplast. The chloroplasts are of various shape, which could be discoid, plate-like, reticulate, cup-shaped, spiral or ribbon-shaped in different species. When the algae undergoes photosynthesis, it stores its food material, which is stored in the form of the starch, and there are the special bodies inside the cells of the algae which are the storage of the food, and they are called as the pyrenites. Pyrenites contain a protein besides a starch. Some algae may store food in the form of oil droplets. Green algae usually have a rigid cell wall made up of inner layer of cellulose and outer layer of pectose. They contain the flagella. This group contains the flagella, which range from the number 2 to 8. They are apical and equal. As I told you, this is a freshwater algae, also found in brackish water and also found in the salt water. Vegetative reproduction usually takes place by fragmentation or by the formation of the spores. The spores are flagellated zoospores produced in the zoosporangia. Sexual reproduction shows considerable variation in the form of sex cells, which could range from isogamous, anisogamous or oogamous. Now here are some examples of the members of the green algae. Single cellular chlamydomonas, then colonial, volvox, filamentous eulothrix, then there are large algae, Fritzschlia, then Fritzschilla alva and the Hydrodictyon. Now this is about the green algae. Let's talk about the Phaeophyceae or the brown algae. The members of Phaeophyceae or brown algae are primarily found in the marine habitat. They show great variation in the size and the form. As you can see on the screen, various groups, members of the brown algae are being shown on the screen. They range from simple branched filamentous forms like ectocarpus to profusely branched and are represented as the kelps, which may reach up to the height of as much as 100 meters. Talking about their pigments, They possess the pigments chlorophyll A and C and carotenoids and xanthophylls, which are together called as the fucoxanthin. They store the food. They store the food in the form of mannitol and the laminarin, and they vary in color from because of the different amount of these pigments, these chlorophyll A, C and fucoxanthin which is found in them. Because of different variation, they vary in the color also. They could be olive green to various shades of brown depending upon the amount of xanthophyll pigment and fucoxanthin present in them. The vegetative cells have cellulose wall which is usually covered on the outside by the gelatinous coating called as the algin. So what is the different from the green algae? That their cell wall also contains the algin. The protoplast contains, in addition to plastids, a centrally located vacuole and a nucleus. The plant body is usually attached to the substratum by the holdfast and has a stalk, the stipe, and a leaf-like photosynthetic organ called as the frond. Vegetative reproduction takes place by fragmentation. Asexual reproduction in most of the brown algae is usually by the biflagellate zoospores that are pear-shaped and have two unequal laterally attached flagella. These are mostly found in the brackish water, salt water, and very rarely the group of Phaeophyceae is observed in the fresh water. Some of the members of the Phaeophyceae are these Ectocarpus, Tyloteris, Catleria, then Desmaracia, Laminaria, Sphacellaria, Sporonchus, Dictyota, and the Sorghasum. These are the some of the members, and you can see they vary in the shades of brown depending upon the amount of the ratio of the various pigments present in them. Now we shall be talking about the third group, and that is the Rhodophyceae, commonly called as the red algae because of predominance of the red pigment phycoerythrin in them. In addition to phycoerythrin, they contain chlorophyll A and chlorophyll D. Majority of the red algae are marine. They are mostly marine with greater concentrations found in the warmer areas. They occur in both well-lighted regions close to the surface of water and also at great depths in ocean where relatively little light only penetrates. The storage material in them is floridine starch. The red thalli of the most of the red algae are multicellular. Some of them have complex body organization. The food which is floridine starch or which is stored, which is similar to the amylopectin. The storage material floridine is very similar to amylopectin or the glycogen in nature. The red algae usually it reproduces by the fragmentation. They reproduce asexually by the non-motile spores, that is the flagella are absent, and sexually by the non-motile gametes. The sexual reproduction is oogamous and accompanied by complex post-fertilization development. The common examples of the Rhodophyceae members are Porphyra, Thoria, Gelidium, Carolina, Ceramium, Gracilaria, Campia. These are the some of the examples of the members of Rhodophyceae. Now by seeing the various variations, we see that the members of the group Algae, they show various variations, beautiful creations of the nature, but overall they are the great photosynthetic members. And that's all about the group Algae.